Your PS5 is set up wrong. It disables loads of awesome features by default and even lowers the quality and usability of others, so I'm going to show you every setting you need to change to get the most out of your console. The settings I'm showing are in order of where they appear in the settings menu to make it easy to follow, but make sure to stay the whole video as some of the later settings are extremely useful and some of them are even hidden, so you don't want to miss out on any of them. Setting number 1 is in accessibility and is to enable zoom. This lets you simultaneously press square and the PS button to zoom in anywhere on the screen, so it's particularly useful for when you're trying to decide if that tiny little speck you can see in the distance is an enemy player or not. Setting 2 is found further down the same menu and is the option to show a tick on enabled settings, which I think makes a nice addition to the UI. Setting 3 is still in the accessibility menu, but is now under the controllers tab and is the ability to set custom button assignments. My recommendation here is that you swap the triggers and bumpers and then enable this every time you jump into a competitive multiplayer shooter. If you can get used to it, it will give you a huge advantage as you'll be the one shooting first and can also spam fire much easier. If you want to continue using the triggers to shoot though, I'd recommend investing in a pro controller or controller mod. I have videos on several of these, so be sure to check them out. Anyway, the fourth setting is directly below this and is to turn on haptic feedback during console navigation. If you like how the controller feels in games like Astrobot, then I'm sure you'll love the dynamic effects that this adds, but it is personal preference and you should also be aware that it could have a minor effect on battery life. Moving on, setting number 5 is in users and accounts, then security, and is to activate the sign in with passkey feature. You'll have to follow the instructions given by your PS5 to do this, but once activated, it means you can use biometrics to sign in rather than a password, which is much more secure and much more difficult for hackers to bypass. Setting 6 is in the privacy section and is to set your gaming history visibility to anyone. The reason for this is it will allow you to import and sort all of your games into my brand new app by simply entering your PSN ID. My backlog is the ultimate hub for your gaming life, allowing you to track your game collection and defeat your backlog in ways not possible elsewhere. As mentioned, you can import all of your data from PSN, Xbox and Steam just with your username. It keeps track of your game's completion status, your playtime and much more, whilst also having full integration with how long to beat, so you can literally sort your backlog by how long each game should take. You can also create custom lists, leave ratings and reviews, share your opinions in comment sections, see your own advanced gameplay stats and so much more. It's available for free on both Android and iOS, so download it using the links in the description and let me know your thoughts. I've spent so long making this, so honestly, your feedback is greatly appreciated and will directly impact future updates. Anyway, whilst in your privacy settings, I should also point out that there are several options here allowing you to control what data you provide to PlayStation and how that's allowed to personalize your experience. So I do recommend that you first ensure that you're happy with how these are configured before moving on to the next few settings. Similarly, I'd highly recommend that you link services such as Discord and Spotify, as these are integrated well into the console's UI and will make many extra features available to you. The next main setting to change though is setting number 7, which is under the login settings tab and is to enable login into the PS5 automatically. This will essentially skip the initial user select screen and sign you straight in, so if you're the only one who uses that PS5, it'll let you get into your games even quicker than before. If you aren't the only user though, then maybe even add a login code so you can be sure no one goes snooping and accidentally deletes all of your stuff. Parents watching, I'm sure you might have experienced that. Anyway, the next few settings are all located under the system section, with setting number 8 being under system software, then console information, and is to change the name of your PS5 to something more recognizable. This will make managing your storage via the app or connecting to it through remote play that bit easier, as it's instantly obvious which console is actually the one you want. I'd love to know what creative names you've given your PS5, so let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to heart my favourites. The 9th setting is under HDMI and is to enable one-touch play if you mainly use your TV for a PS5, as this will make sure whenever you turn your TV or PS5 on, the other turns on with it and also moves on over to that HDMI, meaning you can start playing with the press of just one button. Similarly, the power off link does the same but in reverse, so is one to keep on. However, I've noticed on my LG G3 OLED that sometimes this results in the PS5 mistakenly turning off when you switch on over to it, so if you also find that to be the case, maybe disable it. Moving down down to the beep and light section, setting number 10 is to reduce the volume of the beep. For most rooms, the standard beep effect seems incredibly loud, so I have set mine to the quietest option to ensure I'm not disturbing others when playing at night. If you've got a partner though who seems to always manage to hear that beep no matter how quiet you have it set, you might want to mute it entirely and you'll finally be able to game in peace without them actually knowing. Setting 11 is just below this and is again more personal preference based, but you might want to reduce the brightness of the console's LED. Now, on the original console, I like to keep them at full brightness. For the Slim and Pro models though, as they shine more towards you rather than upwards, I actually turn it down to medium so they're less distracting when my console is right next to my TV. Anyway, setting number 12 is under the Remote Play tab and is to enable it for your user as it will be off by default. This will allow you to play your PS5 using a PlayStation Portal from anywhere in the world or even just by using the app on your phone. The 13th setting is in the same section and is to hide the Remote Play connection status. All this does is remove the constant message that will show if you're connected via a different user. I'm pretty sure that this was added as direct feedback from my guide on how to livestream via Streamlabs, so make sure to give that a watch if it's something you're interested in knowing how to do. Moving on though, setting 14 is under power saving, then features available in rest mode, and is to set supply power to USB ports to adaptive. This intelligently supplies power to the ports when it's actually needed to charge your connected device, assuming that it isn't already full. However, it is only available for the Slim and Pro PS5 models, so if you're still rocking the OG system, I'd recommend setting this to 3 hours or always if you do use your console for charging anything. Otherwise, you can even save a little power and set it to never. Setting number 15 is a little further down and is to enable both network related options. This will keep your PS5 connected to the internet whilst in rest mode and allow you to power it on through Remote Play regardless of where you are. It also means you'll be able to remotely start updates or downloads from within the PS app, ensuring they'll be ready for when you get home. We all know that horrible feeling of sitting down and ready to play and then seeing a 100 terabyte Call of Duty update that we all know isn't going to finish downloading for at least like a year. Drop a like if that's something you can relate to. Anyway, the 16th setting is still in power saving and is to change the time until controllers power off to 10 minutes. This will make your controller's battery seem to last so much longer, as when your controllers aren't being used, they'll actually turn themselves off to save power. It really surprises me that this isn't set up by default. Similarly, setting 17 will also help extend battery life, but is instead found under sound, then microphone, and is to set the microphone status when logging into mute, especially if you usually play solo and thus have no need for a mic to be on. Oh, and whilst in this section, I do also want to draw attention to this microphone status when starting a voice chat or broadcast option. Currently, it only lets you change this to mute, which makes absolutely no sense to me. Surely a better option here would be to have your microphone unmute when starting a chat or broadcast, so PlayStation, if you are watching again, please consider adding this. Going back to the current settings you want to change though, setting 18 is under audio output and is to set HDMI device type to whatever is correct for your setup. If you have surround sound and set this to AV amplifier, you should also make sure that those settings are configured correctly with your speaker position set up as accurately as possible. For those of you using a soundbar, make sure it's at least a 2.1 channel soundbar, as if it's only 2.0, you're actually better off leaving it as TV and setting up 3D audio, which brings us to setting number 19. That's to enable 3D audio for your TV speakers and to customize it by following the instructions given by the PS5. This will produce a simulated surround sound effect, also making the audio sound much more rich and crisp if you're using TV speakers or a soundbar that doesn't have a subwoofer. Similarly, setting number 20 is to configure 3D audio for your headphones. The PS5 will walk you through the process of creating a custom 3D audio profile for your exact ear shape, which optimizes the sound specifically for you as much as possible. With this done, I'd even argue that this audio upgrade is the greatest leap forward to PS5 from the PS4, even more so than visuals. It's also immensely useful for being able to pinpoint the exact direction you hear a sound, so when listening to enemy footsteps, it's easier than ever to know exactly where they are. I can't stress enough how important it is that you set this up. Moving on, setting 21 is right at the bottom of the audio output tab and is to change the audio format priority to what best suits your setup. This in itself is arguably worthy of its own dedicated video, so let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in. But for now, set this to whatever best matches with different configurations explained on screen. This will ensure that you're getting the best sound quality possible with as little latency as possible from your specific setup. The 22nd setting is under volume and is to put the controller speaker to the maximum. Whilst yes, battery life could take a small hit from this, there are some sounds in games that you otherwise won't hear. Using Spider-Man 2 as an example, I bet you'd think the first time you hear Venom is right here. However, it isn't. You actually hear him much earlier in the game, but most don't realise that because the voice only comes from the controller's built-in speaker. Drop a like if you didn't know this, and also please consider subscribing as I'm aiming to reach 100,000 by the end of the year, but I desperately need your help to get there. I'm sure you'll benefit from all my other PlayStation content too. Anyway, settings 23, 24 and 25 are all in the screen and video settings, with the first being to enable VRR if your display supports it, and to also apply it to unsupported games. Next, you want to go down and also ensure that other settings such as 120Hz output and auto low latency mode are also enabled and set to automatic. Just like VRR, these will greatly improve the fluidity and responsiveness of your games if your display supports them. Now, the final setting in here is HDR and is to change it from always on to on when supported. I have no idea why it's forced on by default, because when a game doesn't support it, colours are just going to look washed out. Moving on to the accessory settings, setting 26 is in the controller tab and is to set the brightness of controller indicators to dim. This will save a lot of battery life and ultimately it doesn't detract from your gaming experience in the slightest. Oh, and whilst here, I should mention that I'm not going to go in depth on specific accessory settings for things like the DualSense Edge or PSVR 2, as I do have dedicated videos for those. Moving on to the next main PS5 settings though, setting number 27 is in save data and game app settings and is then to set your game presets up to match your own personal preferences. For me, I like to have it set to performance mode with subtitles always disabled and online multiplayer set to be as private as possible. What about you though? I'm particularly interested for whether you go for resolution mode or performance mode, so let me know in the comments, as according to PlayStation, 70% of us do choose performance. Now, the 28th setting is actually less of a setting and is to just unfollow all of the games that you don't really care about. Every time you wishlist or start a new game, even if it's free, it will be followed by default, so chances are there's a lot here that you aren't interested in, and I recommend you check back here every month or so to keep your news feeds truly personalized. In fact, I'd love to see PlayStation add an option in the future to prevent games being followed by default, or maybe even have the ability to choose when a game should be automatically followed. So maybe if you buy it, then it is, but if it's just a PS Plus game, then it isn't. Anyway, setting 29 is to enable the voice command preview, which allows you to control your PS5 through only your voice, which can come in quite handy. You should also fine-tune the other options here to your liking. Setting number 30 is to personalize how your notifications show up. This will obviously be different for each of us, but what I would recommend is disabling all of them for during video, as if you're using your PS5 to watch something, you want to be properly immersed rather than being distracted with notifications and game invites. Oh, and if you enabled haptic feedback on navigation earlier, you might also want to toggle it on for notifications. Moving on then, the rest of the main settings we'll look at before jumping into some of the hidden ones are now all going to be under captures and broadcasts, with settings 31 and 32 being under the shortcuts for create button submenu. Firstly, you'll want to change your button mapping to either easy screenshots or easy video clips. This will let you take screenshots with a quick tap of the create button, ensuring that you don't miss the correct moment like you would if you had to hold it. Regarding which to go for easy video clips if you frequently start full resolution recordings like I do, and go for easy screenshots if you prefer to be able to save previous gameplay with the double tap. If you opt for easy screenshots, then you should also change the length of recent gameplay clip setting to something slightly longer, such as a minute. This will make sure that whatever you did want to show in the gameplay is properly included with nothing left out. Going to to the next and final option in this menu, you'll want to disable the save confirmation for screenshots. Whenever you take a screenshot, there's a clear sound effect confirmation for this anyway, so all the visible notification does is get in the way. If you're a virtual photographer, this will save you a ton of time as you won't have to wait for that notification to disappear. Oh, and speaking of virtual photography, the app I've developed also allows you to upload and store all of your photos into galleries that other users can then explore and admire, whilst also acting as your own cloud storage. Trust me, when developing my backlog, I wanted to make sure it had absolutely everything you could need, so if you've not already downloaded it, please, this is your reminder to do so. Setting 33 is also one for you virtual photographers and is under screenshot format, and is a change of file type to PNG, as this is a lossless format so will produce better quality images. Just note that this does also take up more storage space, though that shouldn't matter if you're using the My Backlog app to store them. Anyway, settings 34, 35 and 36 are all under video clip format, with the first being to change the manual recording resolution to 3840 by 2160. This will ensure that any videos you start manually are captured in full 4K resolution. The next two options here are for including your microphone audio and party audio in video clips, both of which should be enabled. If you keep them disabled, you'll get properly annoyed when you go to save a funny moment and then realise that none of your or your friend's audio is included, which just kills the moment. Speaking of, this brings us to setting 37, which is also the first hidden setting, and you'll have to start a voice chat to be able to find it. Once started, hit the three dots, then voice chat settings, and set share your voice to allow. This is always disabled by default, so share this video with all of your friends to make sure that they also change this, otherwise their audio won't be included in your clips regardless of your settings. Going back to the captures and broadcast options though, the 38th setting is under trophies and is to change trophy videos to just the impressive trophy tiers, such as gold and platinum. This will save a lot of storage space and you'll still have the screenshots for other rarities anyway, unless you do decide to change that too. Setting 39 is a super cool one and is to participate in community game help by enabling it. This will very occasionally result in your gameplay being used to power the game help feature. I've had one of mine used for Astrobot and think it's just super cool to think that your gameplay is contributing directly towards a feature like this. Also, the more people with it on, the more useful the feature will become too. Setting number 40 is under broadcasts and is to up the video quality to 60 FPS, as if you're live streaming gameplay, I'm sure you want it to look as smooth as possible. Setting 41 is straight below this in the audio submenu and is to include party audio. I'm sure if you're in a voice chat and streaming at the same time, you'll want the party audio to be included, so get this enabled. And again, make sure that your friends are allowing their voice to be shared, as I showed earlier. Right, moving on, setting 42 is another hidden option and is found by opening the quick menu and then tapping options. You'll now be able to customize your quick menu completely to your own liking. For the features I use, I found this order to be the most optimal, but it will vary from person to person. In fact, to even access setting 43, you'll actually need to make sure that the sound option is included on your quick menu config, and also that you're using one of Sony's official audio devices, such as the Pulse 3D, Pulse Explore, or Pulse Elite. With one of those connected, you'll be able to access custom EQ options. For best sound quality from those devices, I like to use a bass boost preset, but there are so many possibilities here, and I dive into these options further in my Pulse Elite review and guide, which you can check out by clicking the video on screen now. If any of these settings helps you, please drop a like as well as subscribe, as I make this kind of video for all major PlayStation launchers, whether it be games or hardware. Also, don't forget to download my backlog and leave a review if you find it useful.